Welcome everybody. CJ the Smart Guy here. And today I'm with one of the most experienced techies in this entire space. She got style. She's passionate about the whole crypto space. She works out heavily. She comes to everything. She comes to, literally almost every event out there. She actually just drove from Austin to Houston just for this event. So, big shout outs to Jasmine Brunson, also known as Sahara Sounds. If you called me earlier, I probably said Sahara, but she corrected me on it. It's like the motherland. I've been saying wrong about the motherland the whole time.
It's all good.
Everybody welcome Jasmine. She's the founder of Blockchain Culture. She's a DJ and a data awareness activist. So welcome, Jasmine.
Thank you, CJ. I appreciate that.
No problem. Thanks for coming down. First, how was the drive from Austin to Houston?
The drive was pretty all right. I've done it before, 2 hours. The traffic wasn't that bad as it used to be, but it was really cool. It was really cool to drive down here.
Cool. And I know originally you're from DC, right?
Yeah, Prince George's County, born and raised.
Okay. Oh, you got to represent.
Yeah.
And then you just moved to Austin. What was the reason behind that move, if I may ask?
I moved to Austin to immerse myself in the crypto space in Austin. I was working for a DeFi insurance company that I recently left. Mm-hmm. But now I'm just, filtering and making sure that I'm still a disruptor in this space.
Okay, gotcha. And yeah, I know you had invited me to one of the Austin blockchain summits out there. I think Ted Cruz was there.
Yeah. Texas Blockchain Summit, yeah.
Yeah, how was that? Because I wanted to go, but I was caught up with taxes and, life of a CPA is kind of busy. But how was that experience?
The experience was pretty interesting. It reminded me of kind of like the GBA, the Government Blockchain Association, and how they have a conference in DC on the Capitol, and they talk about regulation and all the, the governmental aspects of blockchain. So it's very interesting to kind of tap into that space because typically, folks in the space don't really think about the regulation and the regulatory entities and, folks in the SEC, but it was very interesting to listen to those folks.
Yeah.
There.
I think they should get a hold of Bitcoin, the American Dream. That was a book written by Lamar Wilson, as well as Charlene Federico. Charlene, she was a regulator. So she's all about regulation and writing things out. I believe you met her, at the Black Blockchain Summit in DC, correct?
Yeah, I met her finally in person at the Black Blockchain Summit in DC, and had the pleasure of listening to you all and listening to her through Clubhouse.
Yeah.
The BBB. So
yeah, make sure y'all check out the BBB Black Blockchain. The Black Bitcoin Billionaires Club out there on Clubhouse. We got plenty of different classes. We talk about beginners. We have one for boomers. We got security and awareness, which I know that Jasmine, that's one of her things in the IT space with data awareness. And so make sure you check that out on Clubhouse, Black Bitcoin Billionaires, as well as you can go to blackbitcoinbillionaire.com. Check out the newsletter we have all the time. So out of all these different events you've been to, because I know you've been to nearly all of them, what were some of your favorite ones, and what are some of the things that you're advocating for going forward?
For sure. I got to give it up and be quite honest. The best summit, the best conference I've ever been to is the Black Blockchain Summit, hands down by Sinclair Skinner. And, all the Black folk who come together and talk about blockchain from a data science perspective, from the development perspective, from the regulatory perspective. I love it. We talk about how blockchain technology and cryptocurrency is applied to the diaspora. And it's an incredible summit to be around and be around the folks who are actually doing the work day to day in this space. So I would say hands down, all the summits I went to, yacht parties, all that stuff in Miami. I loved it. I love Bitcoin 2021. I love, Decentral and all that, but Black Blockchain Summit, got to give it to them hands down. Yeah,
for sure. Shout outs to Sinclair Skinner. I think that's actually where me and you met, was in DC the first time, I believe. I was on the tour with Najah, and we went to DC as part of the tour. And so I seen you out there. First, how was that experience in DC with Najah and the whole tour?
That experience for me was very riveting. And I have absolute 100% respect for Najah Roberts and all the folk who work with her with Crypto Blockchain Plug and the BBB. Like, you all took the time out of y'all day and out of y'all schedules, y'all day-to-days, whether your occupation is CPA or what have you, to do a tour and at historical Black communities And you did it through blockchain education. And, you know, the great equalizer in this space is through blockchain education. So for you all to have done that, and for Najah and all the other folks who got on the mics and spoke about Bitcoin and this revolution and how this train, we can't let it leave us. I mean, I have utmost respect for what you all did. And it was very incredible. I felt the energy, I felt the passion, and y'all did it in Southeast DC. My mother's from Southeast DC. You know, I got family from Southeast DC. And to see what happened with gentrification, and you probably know this from your tour, all the cities y'all visited were probably gentrified. And everything that weren't gentrified, the Black people who were there were plundered. So for y'all to have brought that energy and say, this is a freedom technology, let's get on board. This is a freedom, this is an equalizing currency, Bitcoin in itself. I thought it was incredible.
Yeah, I know, to piggyback what you said, I know when we went to Baltimore, that was like the biggest eye-opening experience I've ever seen before, because structure-wise, Baltimore was beautiful. The people were absolutely amazing. I know Angela Francis, she gave a speech, and she spoke with us. The performers over in Baltimore were great. But like when you looked at the actual living conditions, it was very eye-opening, because it was crazy to me to see how the roofs had holes in them. There were trees sometimes growing out of houses. And it just looked very dilapidated, but yet the people were so amazing. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, definitely seeing gentrification happen, which is another reason why I'm grateful that you could come out here, because here in Houston, Texas, they have tried to redistrict, the House of Representatives, in the sense that they're trying to get Al Green, who's a Black American, and Sheila Jackson Lee, who's a Black American, redistricted so that they have to go against each other. So that no matter what, there's only one Black American representing Texas in the House of Representatives. And so she had a rally, and you drove from Austin out here already again. So big shout outs to you for that. What drives you to do things like that, to be such an activist?
Well, that's a really loaded question.
That's the whole point. Look, let the people know.
I would say it's the blood that rushes through me. It's the people that I looked up to, like my grandmother, my mother, my parents. The other reasons why I do what I do, and the people that I surround myself with. Blackness in itself needs to be protected by all costs. And so a lot of what I do, especially in my career, and especially in my collegiate career, I graduated from the University of Maryland 2 years ago. A lot of it was using my Blackness to educate, and using my Blackness as a tool so people can understand that this Blackness needs to be protected. So with that question, what drives me, I had no decision. There was no decision for me to wake up and be this way. It's just some type of power, some force in me that's making me push and stand up for our people, because, like you all said in the Revolution tour, we have a deadline to get on board with Bitcoin and blockchain. We have a deadline to accumulate as much Bitcoin as possible. We have a deadline to educate our people, whether it's the children with the Metaverse, or the baby boomers with creating their own retirement plans through Bitcoin. So there's a reason why I'm a technologist. There's a reason why I'm an artist. There's a reason why a lot of what I do is to educate our folk. And I can't really answer it in a straightforward way, but it all happens for a reason.
Yeah, so. I think that they get you. I think we understand. And I think, so you had mentioned Najah, and you have a lot of respect for her. One thing that we just learned a couple weeks ago was that she got a call from Coinbase, and they're actually trying to work together now. Because there's been a lot of negativity in the workforce from Coinbase, like the treatment of the people over there. And she's been very vocal about it. Every single city, she's been vocal about it. And so one thing that Lamar said was that we have to utilize our voices, because that's the only way we're going to get heard.
Exactly.
United we stand, divided we fall. And so, you being a Black woman in the space, how do you feel you've been treated in this space? And what are some things that you would recommend to the people who are looking up to you? What would you recommend they do about it?
Absolutely. So just to bundle it up, I did what I had to do career-wise and collegiately. I have 2 degrees, one in computer science and the other in information science and data science. I've been loaded with experience. I did my thing at NASA. I did my thing at Maxar Technologies. And when I pivoted and I decided to go all in crypto, crypto is an industry where they say that it's supposed to be all inclusive. We're perpetuating financial inclusivity and all these things. To be quite honest, I have not been treated properly in the crypto space. And it's typically, by white males. It's typically by folk who, you'll tell them that something, I don't like this, or maybe we can do it this way. And the communication and all that can get convoluted and whatnot. And the treatment is not fair. And a lot of times you said our voice is the most powerful thing. I've been silenced in crypto. And it's a very charged thing to say, but that's the truth. So if we want Web3, if we want crypto, the crypto community, if we want DeFi and all these things to be actually inclusive, financially inclusive, we have to respect folk from wherever they come from and wherever they fall. And so, it has not been easy, but it's not going to stop me. It's not going to, none of it is going to stop me from being in this space. None of it's going to stop me from the grind and putting, everything into my craft because, I love this space. All hours of the night, I'm studying AI and ML. All hours of the night, I'm studying DeFi. And so with all the treatment that I've endured from, folk in the space, it's not going to stop me. If anything, it's going to allow me to continue speaking up when things happen so that the women and the young girls that come after me don't have to deal with it, or they at least have the tools not to mitigate.
There you go. And look, if I have anything to do, I'm going to make sure you have a voice. I'm going to make sure Najah has a voice. I'm going to make sure I do everything I possibly can. I'm still growing my following as well, but anything I can do to try to get your voice heard or to help you out, that's my goal. That's one of the whole reasons for the podcast is to put people who, are in the space, who are really intelligent and who have that passion, such as yourself, they have a voice, put themselves out there. So again, thanks for coming on. You had mentioned the metaverse. Yeah. What does that mean to you? Because everybody has a different ideology of what the metaverse is. And, you being in the space, what does that mean to you?
The metaverse in itself is a virtual universe, a virtual world where folk can have ownership, right? They can have ownership. They can create their own avatars. And typically the metaverse is used in gaming. So that's why a lot of kids, my uncle, he actually lives out in Austin, my Uncle Mike, his son was talking about the metaverse, gaming and all these. And I feel as though that in itself is going to onboard an onslaught of young Black entrepreneurs, young Black kids, young Black students into this space real seamlessly, real easily. So I feel like the metaverse is this world of possibilities that is not really tangible. But yeah, the metaverse, NFTs, Web3, all of this stuff is happening so fast, and it's so fascinating to be a part of it. So for sure.
So if you were talking to a 10-year-old kid who loves video games and their parents were saying, hey, you can't get paid to play video games, and they're getting trashed for playing, what would you tell that 10-year-old kid as a way to possibly get paid for it, or to monetize themselves, or create a brand, or just get their parents off their back? What would you tell that 10-year-old kid to study, or what platforms to use?
Oh, that's a great question. I would definitely tell that 10-year-old kid to continue doing what they're doing, right? Continue what they're doing. It's funny. They can close their door, play their games, play to earn and all that stuff. And then one day they probably pay their parents' mortgage off of it. The parents not going to say anything. They're not going to be mad at that. Yeah. But platforms I'm looking at Digital Land. I'm looking at Sandbox, looking at Crypto Voxels, and in different type of NFT platforms. I'm looking at some NFT platforms that are coming out of our community. Shout out to AfroDAO, my folks at AfroDAO. They're building a Black Sea, which it's kind of like a spinoff of OpenSea, an NFT marketplace for Black folk and Black artists, because a lot of times we have to use these other platforms to get our art out there. I'm looking at platforms like that.
Yeah, that's important. And you also mentioned NFTs. I know that, you know, with my Smart Guy clothing, thank you, by the way, for supporting.
Of course,
Yeah,
of course.
that was cool. What I did with mine was the original purchases of Smart Guy clothing. I included like a physical NFT with it that later on this year will become digitized. And then anybody who holds on to the physical or the digital NFT, they'll be getting a 20% discount on all my services or products as long as they hold on to it. And so my goal is to create like a community type and to create like intrinsic value for the NFT. Because say if I wound up doing a public speaking event and the public speaking event is $10,000 a show, well, if they hold on to that, you know, digital NFT, it's going to be $2,000 discount, which means that if somebody else wants to sell it, they could probably sell it for up to $22,000, and I get a residual for each one of those sales. So for me, it's another line of income. It creates a community, and I think that's the value of NFTs. What do you think about the current state of the NFT market and the future of it?
I would say the current state of the NFT market. What I love that I saw, especially last year with the whole NFT boom, I saw a lot of people that look like us in the space, and specifically Black women, right? Black women with ENS addresses, Black women talking about ETH and crypto and talking about their art and putting their art out there. And so even though I enjoyed that onslaught and that new beginning, what I see in the future is us with our own NFT platforms, us with our own exchanges and every DeFi protocols, what have you, right? So, like I said, we're in a rush not only to accumulate as much Bitcoin as possible, but also in a rush for ownership in Web3. So, that's what I see in the future of the NFT space, the NFT market in Web3.
Yeah, because I know one of the people I pay attention to in business, his name is Gary Vaynerchuk. And I know that somebody had asked him, "Oh, are you going to use OpenSea? Are you going to use Nifty Gateway?" And you know, in his, I don't curse like that, but basically he was like, "No, why would I do that when I can create my own?" And so he created VFriends. And so I was like, in my mind, why aren't we doing stuff like that? So do you know of any platforms? I know you mentioned AfroDAO, but are there any platforms that we can go to mint our own NFTs that is in our community yet?
Personally, I don't really know that many, at least like not right now. Like I said, like AfroDAO is building Black Sea, so hopefully we'll see that soon. But you know, we also have to go back to the infrastructure conversation. You know, do we have the economic infrastructure to actually build these platforms in the VC capital? And the truth is, 1% of VC capital in America actually goes to Black people. Wow. So it's a really interesting thing. I think that, like I said, in the future, I think that we'll be able to put our foot in the sand and start building these platforms up from scratch. But there are barriers to entry in the space, especially from a venture capital aspect. So hopefully that all that dumb money that's thrown in DeFi and that dumb money that's thrown to folks who don't really have the real acumen and the experience in the space gets thrown to us. To actually, you know, do our due diligence and do our research and are actually experts in this space. So I don't know of any yet, but shout out to AfroDAO and shout out to Black Sea. For
sure. So, okay. So you had mentioned ENS domains. First, you know, what's the difference between ENS domains and maybe unstoppable domains or maybe like a .eth? Like, could you explain how that works? Because I'm on the money side. I don't really know too much about the tech. So can you explain that?
Got you. So ENS domains, that's your .eth address. And with your .eth, you can accept ETH, you can accept Bitcoin, you can accept whatever cryptocurrency you want. It allows you to put in certain parameters of your wallet address for whatever blockchain you want to accept your currency on. So that's the .eth address. The unstoppable domains are like the .nft, the .crypto. But all in all, you want to buy as many of these domains, whether it's ENS, whether it's unstoppable, as much as possible. Because like I said in the beginning, we're in a rush. We're kind of like in a crypto metaverse rush, kind of similar to the gold rush on the West Coast. But it's just like we're in a rush for ownership, owning our own names, right, in the digital world and owning our IP and all that. So that's the difference. The .eth is the ENS, and then the .crypto, .nft, there's a whole bunch more like .x. Those are the unstoppable domains. But I did hear that there's some type of rumor, don't quote me on this, there's some type of rumor that ENS domains are going to do some type of airdrop. So, that might be incentive too. And airdrops, I know ENS did an airdrop not so long ago, and they dropped some ETH to folk who got their ENS addresses a long time ago, and I heard a lot of people made some good money off of that. So, we don't want to miss this train.
So for sure. So I'm going to go ahead and get my ENS domains, because I've been on the Unstoppable domains this whole time. And I know they actually gave us credits. So that was awesome. So I don't know, I have maybe like 50 domains. And then they gave us credits and they said, here, you have an extra like $1,000 or something like that just to buy a whole bunch of domains. So I just buying domains left and right. And so I think that's powerful. I know on my end, what I normally tell people to do is to get a trademark. Because, so for instance, CJ the Smart Guy, that's trademarked. So if somebody ever tries to take CJtheSmartGuy.eth, don't try that, because by the time this comes out, I'm going to have it. But if they tried to do that, I could send a cease and desist letter, and I'll want to be able to get that back. I'm going to have to pay them fair market value for it or whatever they bought it for, but I'd be able to get it back.
Exactly.
And so I'm recommending everybody have a unique trade name in this space. So when I hear Sahara Sounds, I said it right? I said it right?
Sahara Sounds, yeah.
Sahara Sounds. So when I hear Sahara Sounds, that might be something that you want to trademark so that you can have that across all platforms. And if somebody tries to, financially benefit from your name, you can send that nice little cease and desist letter, and you can get that back. So,
yeah, for sure.
I think it's good that we collaborate both the tech side and the finance/regulation side, so that, we call them all together. Because I don't know anything about data awareness or, anything like that. I know that, in BBB, we have the scam awareness classes. From your perspective, what are some of the best ways that somebody new in the space could protect themselves from a scam or from getting badly hurt?
Awesome. Other than doing your own research, I'll just put this out there. I have a repository on GitHub that I'm about to publish publicly about the DeFi hacks and scams. And this is what I did in the DeFi insurance space, and which is why I even moved to Austin in the first place, to analyze risk in DeFi. And the scams in cryptocurrency, they haven't really changed. You have ICO scams, you have people who have exit scams. They say they're doing such and such with this project, don't really do what they promises and just leave with investor money.
Yeah.
There's a plethora of scams in this space. And then when you go into the DeFi space, there's risk from infinite approval, rebase errors, rug pulls, what have you. And so this world of crypto, even though it's fun and you can make so much money and all this and all that, it's very, very imperative that folks get privy and understand what risks are out there, what scams are out there, because it's real easy to get rug pulled and think that this project is legitimate without even seeing who are the project founders. Yeah. Are they docs? Are they actually very transparent? How is their code base? Look at their GitHub. Does the code make sense, or did they just fork it off from some other protocol and say that this is our code? Like, there's a lot of things that you gotta be equipped with. So I would just say, on top of doing your own research, see what resources are already out there with lists of the types of hacks and schemes in the space. And like I said, that's part of what I did in the DeFi insurance space, and I'm moving into a different sector of DeFi. I am working on a different project. I'll come out with more information about that soon. But it's all tailored around how can we protect ourselves in this new world of finance, right? Where the code base is kind of like the main attack vector. So for sure.
Yeah, that's why people like you are important. Because when I first came into this space, all I saw was the money. I was like, man, this is great. I was using Binance.com, and originally I watched the movie Dope.
That's how I got into crypto too. Shout out to Shamik Moore. Yeah, that's how I got
Rocky,
That's how I got into crypto too, man.
Yeah, and so I was like, "Oh, this is cool." I looked it up, and it was Coinbase. They were like, "Hey, you get $25 free by downloading this app." So I downloaded it, and then they were like, "Yeah, but you can't take it out for a certain amount of time." So I was like, "Oh, I forgot all about it." Deleted the app, and then like maybe a year, a half, 2 years later, 2017 December, my homeboy hits me up because like, "Hey, bro, we're rich." I was like, "We rich? What you talking about? We rich?" And so I checked it in. It was like $700 something. Man, I took that out, paid my rent. I thought I was live. I was like, man, I made the best investment ever. But then, you know, people like Dr. Boyce Watkins and Nipsey Hussle were saying, you know, it's more than just a get rich quick scheme. You know, study this, the whole space is going to change. Mm-hmm. And so I was studying for my CPA. Simultaneously, I started studying cryptocurrency. Didn't really realize what I was doing at the time. But then when, you know, 2020 came about, you know, BBB came out, and I was like, wow, this is great. And Lamar, the first thing he told me was, you know, make sure you put your stuff on a cold wallet. And I was like, what's a cold wallet? Like I was all about the money. You know, I just see my dollars going up. I know too much about it. And so Isaiah Jackson, he created the term no keys, no cheese. You know, make sure I get y'all merch, bitcoinandblackamerica.com. But he had created the term no keys, no cheese, meaning if you don't own your private keys, you don't actually own, you know, your money. And then Najah, she was the one saying that don't buy your ledger from Amazon.
Yeah, Amazon.
You know, those are just
no third parties belong in this space. They don't.
They don't. And so from your angle, what are some things that the majorities would have no idea about in terms of keeping ourselves safe? I've heard about SIM swaps. I know Sinclair's talked about that. What are some things that, you know, advanced level security that you want us to look into? So
when you store your private keys, and your private keys are like either 12 or 24 collection of words in order, which is kind of like the way you back up your hardware wallet. When you store them, don't take a picture and put it on your phone. Don't take a picture and put it in your iCloud. Don't put it on any third-party service. Do not store it that way. You got to kind of go old school. I know folks who probably like, you know, write it down. Don't even talk about your private keys. Don't tell people where you store them unless, you know, they're a benefactor or something like that. But don't tell, or beneficiary, I'm sorry. But don't tell anybody about your private keys. Your private keys are the only way that you'll be able to unlock your hardware wallet. If you forget like your passcode or your PIN or whatever. So I would say that's number one. But, you know, to go back to the SIM swapping, I heard about the SIM swaps issue more so through crypto tutors. And so that is a big issue. And I heard, I spoke to Jimmy Song at the Texas Blockchain Summit, and he told me the best way you can prevent from SIM swapping is using Google Fi. So I want to put that out there too. But, you know, we got to protect, just like we're protecting our IP throughout this Web3 journey. We got to protect our private keys, and we got to ensure that we're not just using these exchanges to purchase our crypto. Buy it over the counter. Shout out to Najah Roberts. She has an entire over the counter brick and mortar cryptocurrency, you know, organization where you can buy your Bitcoin from her straight, you know, black peer to peer, black to black. So, you know, that and you can't trust the exchanges. Get off the exchanges. It's not going to do much for you. Typically, what happens is during big fluctuations of the price of Bitcoin and the volatility, some exchanges go down. They crash. They
Most
crash.
of them.
You're trying to take your money out. You're trying to buy more. They're going to crash. Yeah. It's almost inevitable. And so that's why it's really imperative to go ahead and get that hardware wallet and store your private keys properly. Yeah, for sure. I know. So Najah, she's very intelligent. So she's got the brick and mortar cryptocurrency exchange, Crypto Blockchain Pug, based in Inglewood, California. And then she teamed up with Hill, and they created the Black Wall Street wallet, which is the whole purpose of the tour from Hill's perspective, you know, because they were trying to market the wallet while at the same time educate the communities on the evolution of money. And so they've actually added additional features now, because when it first came out, I was like, man, this isn't what we were preaching to everybody. You know, it's just buy and sell. You couldn't move it from one, you know, wallet to another. They've now updated it. So now you can move your crypto from one wallet to another, as well as you can dollar cost average into it. Which we believe is the best strategy to accumulate Bitcoin, is to dollar cost average on a regular interval, whether it's $1, $5, 10, 60, 100, 1,000. I don't know your financial situation, but just buying in it, whether the price is up, whether it's down. And then me as a CPA, what I do is at the end of the year, I say, okay, if Bitcoin is at 40,000, how much have you bought above 40,000? Let's sell it, rebuy it, take that tax loss. And so you don't have to pay hardly any taxes on it, at least for that year. There's no wash rule in crypto for right now.
that may change.
And that might change. Yeah. We're in Q1 of 2022. You know, the regulatory entities, they've been watching. They've been watching the NFT space. They've been seeing the commercials during the football games.
Yeah.
We don't know what's going to happen, but yeah, you're right.
Yeah, you got Eminem and Snoop Dogg buying NFTs and, you know, oh man. So, okay. So, you also came to Miami. That was awesome. And it was cool. Well, no, it was Miami was cool, but then in DC when we went to the Black Blockchain Summit, I actually saw you on TV after seeing you in person. That was like the coolest thing ever. I felt like, man, I'm kicking it with a celebrity. How does it feel to be like, you know, such a presence in this space and still staying humble?
Thank you, CJ. I appreciate that. Wow, I'm blushing right now. You know, I feel like I really haven't like made it yet, and I feel like even, you know, when the time comes, if the time comes, you know, it's just a matter of, and I have people around me that kind of like, they tell me like, hey, you know, I remember I posted something on IG when Bitcoin had hit 64K, and I had my line sister, Marilyn, she was like, hey, like post that, take that down, because I was like, yeah, Bitcoin done. I was going crazy and all that. She's like, take that down. I have all my line sisters that kind of keep me in check. So it's just like, I don't know, you know, the humility has to come from within. Like, you can't just look at the price of Bitcoin and fiat dollars. Like, as long as it goes up, as long as it goes down and you understand the technology, you're good. But in terms of me being a force in the space, this is the first time I ever heard that. So I appreciate that. I just think that like I said, my life's work will be to onboard more Black people and more women into this space so that our voices are heard, and so that we're not doing the same thing in Web 2 with pillaging people through data privacy issues and all that into Web 3, where now we have ownership, because there are vectors in this space, especially on the NFT level, that I didn't even know about until I started researching it, like phishing attacks and scams like that, where people are getting their NFTs stolen. So what do you think is going to happen to us? Everything disproportionately affects the Black community, right? So, so, you know, I thank you for that, CJ. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure. You know, you got to give respect where respect is due. I know that, you know, me being a CPA in this space, I don't really see too many people who look like me. You know, I know there's Raven Moore, he's a CPA, but he mostly focuses on the bookkeeping. I know Malachi, he's a CPA in the space. I'm not sure if he has his own practice or not, but I feel like I'm one of the main voices on the CPA side. But my whole goal is let's bring more of us into the space, because less than 1% of CPAs are Black. I believe it's like 5,000 of us in the country, which is a ridiculously small number.
Wow.
When you think about there's 50 states, right? 5,000 divided by 50, you know, you do the math, like that's not a lot of us at all. And so I know when it comes to financial education, we were way behind with the US dollar fiat system. And so now that I'm seeing this change, I want to be one of those main people. And, you know, Nipsey was one of the main people who got me in the space. And he was basically saying that a lot of these businesses are going to crumble and the business model going forward is going to be extremely huge. And so what he did is he hired a CTO, a chief technology officer named Idris Sandhu. And I think you, Lamar Wilson, and Idris, if I could do one thing, it would be to get the three of y'all together and just be tech people and come up with something magnificent, because he's got these wearables. You know, he's doing some crazy stuff. And I know that you are extremely knowledgeable about the data, as well as the security. And I know Lamar has been in this space forever. So I think that would be like a dream team. I'm a CPA, so I have no idea about anything y'all would say. Y'all all talk over my head. But if y'all need the bookkeeping for it or the dollars, I could definitely do it. So for sure. So if there was one thing you want the public to know, what would it be? And what would be your goal for, you know, what would you want them to know about you, the space, or anything going forward?
I'll start out with the space. So I want folks to know that this is borderless. This is permissionless. You don't have to reach out to a bank. You don't have to reach out to any third party to get into the Bitcoin space. you can just go ahead and buy Bitcoin. Like as easy as Cash App. Like you can buy Bitcoin in increments through Cash App. You don't have to own a whole Bitcoin. You can buy Satoshis, which are 0 decimal places. And it's just like, you don't, it's borderless. And I feel as though what we're kind of like moving into now, it's kind of like a lot of folk are getting into this space, but they're forgetting why it even exists. Like blockchain technology and decentralization is inherently matriarchal. So in the sense that the patriarchy in itself, or the patriarchal nature, is kind of like a hierarchy. Mm-hmm. So most of the power is at the top and then it's disseminated at the bottom, right? Whereas if you think about it, you push that kind of like pyramid or that hierarchy down and you have a web. So, and that web is decentralized, where every node, every entity within that web has the same, access to information, right? And so we can't forget that this decentralized technology in itself is supposed to be freeing and it's supposed to be for all of us. Mm-hmm. And so creating barriers to entry and all of that, and doxing people after a hack or some type of breach in your code. I'm not going to say the protocol. I'm not going to say the protocol, but like doing stuff like that, it makes the space more and more heinous. Yeah. And it does everything that the Federal Reserve did, all the stuff that we're escaping, the Federal Reserve did to us. And another thing is like, when you talk about freedom, ask somebody who actually got their freedom taken away about freedom, right? Ask somebody whose ancestors were, who got their freedom taken away. Ask them about freedom, because at the end of the day, if anybody doesn't know about freedom better than us, like, you know what I mean? Like we the ones who know what true freedom is. Yeah. So if it's just like you're getting into the space and your inclination is, let me make a whole bunch of money, it's making Web3, DeFi, crypto a very, very toxic place. We're talking about the technology. We're talking about freeing folks. We're talking about educating people. When you add barriers to entry and you talk over people's heads, and I see this stuff all the time, and this is why I do what I do. When you do that, you're creating the same things that happened in Web 2 and all those other entities, and you're bringing them into a freeing technology, a space where we're all supposed to have, equal amount of access and stuff like that. So I would say that folks who do that, if you come into this space and you see people, run their protocols that way, run their companies that way, you don't have to deal with it. Just walk away. Yeah. Know your worth. You don't have to deal with it. You can create your own. This is about ownership, 100% about ownership. So I saw like with Chase, they were saying that you can only buy Bitcoin if you are like a rich person, like if only their preferred clients can get to it. And I was like, JP Morgan Chase. Now I was arguing with JP Morgan Chase associates folk at hackathons. Mm-hmm. I was at Technical Hackathon at University of Maryland in 2017. I was arguing with one of they, I think she was a data scientist herself, and she was saying, I was like, well, what is Jamie Dimon's real view on Bitcoin? Because he's saying all these things. He's saying Bitcoin is garbage and all this stuff. She's like, he didn't say Bitcoin was garbage. He said blockchain technology is incredible. And I'm just like, well, you can't piggyback it now to see them flip-flop, Jamie Dimon flip-flop. Mm-hmm. Even back then, he was giving his daughter Bitcoin for her birthday. You're going to say, while he's telling the public, y'all, Bitcoin is trash. Bitcoin, I don't give a S word about Bitcoin. Look at where we are now. Yeah. Everyone has to capitulate. And then they had the audacity to kind of segment it. And these are the entities, the banks, all those folk that run the banks, Federal Reserve System, all them folk who come into this space and they say, let's do everything we did in the banking industry. Let's bring it to crypto. No, we don't need you. We don't need you. We don't. We don't. So, we gotta, like I said, we gotta build our own, and we gotta put people on. That's another thing. And one last thing. I have a lot of people who came before me. Mm-hmm. I have a lot of people who opened the slate, especially in technology, before me. And one of my mentors, one of the most powerful things he ever told me was, I thanked him for an opportunity he gave me to do an internship, and I thanked him. And one of the things he told me was, just pay it forward.
Yeah.
He said, pay it forward.
Yeah.
And so that's what I'm doing in this space. I'm paying it forward, and I'm making sure that young Black girls, young Black boys, anybody who comes after me, they don't have to experience what I experienced in this space.
Yeah.
They don't have to go through what I've seen and what I've gone through. And one day my voice will actually be heard.
Amen.
I don't want to disclose too much. I love this podcast, but it's treacherous.
Yeah.
What folk are doing. So
yeah, paying it forward is important. I got the whole idea of this podcast after Crypto Kenzie. He was like, hey bro, you need to hop on this podcast. And I was like, man, me? Like what do I do? And he's like, man, you a CPA in this space? So I hopped on it and I was like, you know what? Let me do something similar, but let me remix it for the tour. So I give everybody who showed up, a voice. So
for sure. Shout out to Crypto Kenzie. That's my guy.
Yeah,
Bitcoin
for sure.
baby daddy.
That part. So where can everybody reach you at? What's the best way to get in contact with you? Yeah,
check me out on Twitter, on IG. Sahara Sounds starts with an S, ends with a Z. Like CJ said in the beginning, I'm a DJ. So that's kind of how like my career kind of got started, especially in college. But yeah, you guys can just check me out, add me on LinkedIn. I know my Linktree is linked to both of those accounts. But just, if you have any questions, just hit me up. And also Blockchain Culture, at Blockchain Culture on IG. Follow the page. I put out the latest news in crypto and all types of, memes and stuff like that. So, that's where you can check me out.
For sure. Now, real quick before we end the segment, you being a DJ, do you have any NFTs from you doing any DJ? Because I will support that in a heartbeat.
I will be coming out with some stuff very soon. I'm still thinking about which platform to put it on. I'm going in between like Zora and Audius, but I'm leaning more on Zora because I love what Zora has been doing. So I'll be putting out some content early this year, and okay. I'll make sure I send that to you. For sure, because I'm going to go ahead and buy some of that. So for sure. You, man. No problem. Thank you. Thanks for coming out, and thank you guys for listening. Once again, Jasmine Brunson, heavy in the space, data awareness activist, founder of Blockchain Culture, DJ, showed up to 3 different spots as well as to the Black Blockchain Summit in DC. Thanks for coming out. CJ the Smart Guy, I'm out. Deuce.